what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. I'm your host, Alex Daniels. We got a whole lot to talk about in this one, so we'll try to cram it all in here. Let's kick it off with some news. David Malukas goes to Team Penske, kind of as predicted. Big news in IndyCar, rising star moving up, legend stepping down from the seat, and a seat that now carries historic weight. Malukas is joining Team Penske, so let's dig into what we know, what might be implied, and what it means going forward. So here's the headline for this one. David Malukas will be driving the number 12 Verizon Chevrolet for Team Penske starting in the 2026 NTT IndyCar Series season. He is replacing Will Power, who has been with the number 12 for a very long time, 17 full seasons to be exact. Malukas is only 23 years old, from Chicago, first generation Lithuanian American. He shows real promise, including finishing runner-up at this year's Indy 500. Now, what do we know and what we don't about the contract? So here's where we're going to break it down. Multi-year agreement. The deal is officially described as a multi-year deal. Begins in 2026. He's taking over the 12 car, the Verizon Chevrolet, one of Penske's marquee entries. Will Power is stepping away from that car. His Penske debut in the number 12 will be at the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, which is the opening race of the year. All the normal stuff, right? So Team Penske clearly believes in his potential. Roger Penske said the team will give him everything needed to take the next step in his career. Malukas himself acknowledged the pressure, big shoes to fill, but sees this as a huge opportunity. The exact length of the multi-year deal, how many seasons are optional for renewal, performances clauses, anything like that has not been disclosed. Financial terms, salary, bonuses, things like that have also not been made public. Specific details on sponsorship obligations, promotional or media obligations, internal team responsibilities beyond racing, blah, 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 all the boring stuff. Whether there's any kind of performance-based stuff, we don't know any of that. But Penske is arguably one of the most storied teams in IndyCar. For the number 12 car has long been driven by Will Power, which is a big legacy there for Malukas to step into that. Definitely some big expectations. Malukas has been building his resume, strong finishes, especially in the Indianapolis 500. Runner-up this year. Let's see what else. That gives him the momentum. But so far, no wins in the IndyCar season. Signing with Penske could be the boost he needs, as he's been with AJ Foyt. Will Power stepping aside from number 12 is a long chapter, but we've talked about that. He's moving to Andretti Global next year. The move shows that Penske's really looking for rising talent, and putting Malukas in suggests they believe in youth performance and legacy they can match with. So, also a sign that the driver ladder is actually working in IndyCar. Malukas goes from Indy NXT, then smaller radar teams, then with the Penske affiliation in Foyt, and now over to Penske. So, here's some things to keep your eyes on. How Malukas will perform after leaving AJ Foyt Racing. Momentum coming into his Penske years could give clues as to how he adapts to a big team setting. Any updates on the contract down the line, we'll figure that out and go from there. A lot of people are thinking that this might be a bigger shoes to fill than he can do. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it, but if Malukas delivers, this could mark the beginning of a new era for that number 12 car. If not, the spotlight's always brightest in the place like Penske. So definitely can see what'll happen there. What do you all think will happen? Can Malukas step up? Can he carry the legacy of Will Power in the number 12 car? What are realistic expectations for 2026? Shoot a message over, leave a comment, hit me up on the socials. I want to hear your guys' opinions as well. Let's jump over to some more IndyCar news, this one with Dale Coyne. Let's talk silly season here for a minute because the dominoes just keep falling. Dale Coyne Racing has made a double-barrel announcement. Not only are they signing Indy NXT champion Dennis Hauger, for 2026 they're also entering a brand new technical alliance with Andretti Global. That's a 1-2 punch that could shake things up in the midfield for sure. So first up, driver news. Dennis Hauger, the 2025 Indy NXT champion, is moving to IndyCar full-time with DCR. If you followed NXT this year, you know how strong he was. 6 wins, 5 podiums, 7 poles, 13 top 10s, and that's just in 14 races. So dominating season for him. His resume goes beyond NXT as well. Italian F4 champion, FIF Formula 3 champion in 2021, and multiple wins in Formula 2. So definitely a guy with some pedigree, and now he's bringing that stateside into IndyCar. His first laps of DCR will be in the off-season testing at Mid-Ohio before his official race debut in St. Pete. So now, here's where things get even more interesting for Dale Coyne Racing. They're not going into 2026 alone. They've struck a technical partnership with Andretti Global. So what does it all mean? Well, DCR will still run its own operation, but they'll now tap into Andretti's engineering resources, their data, their development support. That's a big deal for a smaller resource-type team like Coyne. It's a way to close the gap without reinventing the wheel. We've seen it successful for other teams as well in the past. And for Hauger, it's almost a perfect bridge. He was part of the Andretti ecosystem in NXT, so stepping into a DCR seat with Andretti, know-how behind it gives him continuity, some familiar people to work with, familiar systems, support structure, all that stuff that could be real smooth for his rookie season coming over into the big boys at IndyCar. With that being said, what is still in play for 2026 for IndyCar? Silly season, that is. So where does it leave us? Hauger's going to take the one DCR seat. There's still a second Dale Coyne car available. Rinus VeeKay is confirmed to be moving on, so that slot's wide open. Zooming out, the grid isn't completely locked yet, but by most counts, there are around 7 seats still unclaimed for 2026, mostly at midfield or smaller teams. Names floating around include Callum Ilott, Connor Daly, Stingray Robb. Well, actually, Stingray's locked in now, so we can take him off the list. Jacob Abel, what's going to happen with Prema and all that? That all depends on sponsorship and funding. All the top teams are pretty well buttoned up, but Coyne, smaller Honda entries, and some Chevy midfielders are still in question. So I think it's smart, forward-thinking move by Coyne, pairing a hot rookie with Andretti's technical muscle. Feels like the best of both worlds for that team. They get a driver who just proved himself in NXT, and they give him the tools to avoid being stranded in the back with a lower-budget team. For Hauger, it's ideal landing spot like we talked about. He'll earn IndyCar without, crushing it in a top team, but he'll have backing through Andretti. So this could be a good precedent set for smaller teams looking to stay competitive, and exactly the kind of partnership to survive against the bigger teams out there. So smart move by Dale Coyne on that one. This brings us across the pond to Formula One. Just a little something interesting. After the 20 years at Red Bull Racing and Christian Horner leaving, officially left the team, walked away with a massive payout. So he was removed from his operational duties in Red Bull in July, we talked about on previous episodes, following what many outlets call a power struggle, internal tension, and dip in team performance. Though he was relieved of his day-to-day duties in July, Horner was still technically a Red Bull employee while settlement negotiations were underway, and as of a couple days ago, the exit has been formalized. Red Bull and Horner have agreed to the terms that allow him to completely sever ties. So here's the payout, basically. The payout is commonly cited in the region of £80 million, roughly 100 to 108 million, depending on the exchange rate over here on the US dollar. Sky Sports reports slightly more conservatively, suggesting more like 75 million. Possibly a reduced figure because Horner reportedly agreed to less than a full contract value in exchange for a shorter gardening leave or an ability to return to Formula One sooner. His contract originally ran until 2030, so this settlement is in effect an early termination agreement that compensates him for the remainder of the contract. Because of the terms of the agreement, Horner is reportedly free to return to Formula One in some capacity as early as the second quarter of 2026. Some media speculation has linked him to potential ownership stakes or leadership roles in other teams like Alpine, especially given recent instability in sale rumors, though nothing has been confirmed. For Red Bull, this represents a clean break. The team has already replaced Horner, and all the shareholders and everything else involved in that. Everything's basically tied up now and good to go. Trying to steady the ship after some turbulence, if you will. But it's pretty crazy how much money that payout is actually going to be. It also raises some questions. Will contracts now include even more detailed exit clauses? How much power do team bosses really have, especially when their performance dips? Also, what does this do to the competitive landscape, right? If Horner joins another team with his experience and connections, could that shift some dynamics? Already internal strength inside Red Bull's leadership will be under more scrutiny. So here's how we see it. Christian Horner built something huge from Red Bull's early days to dominant powerhouses they've been. That's no small feat, but leadership isn't static. Tensions, expectations, internal politics, all of that can erode a long-standing position, right? So the payout sounds large, yes, but given his contract stretch, that's what he would likely have been owed. This feels more like a negotiated exit rather than a golden parachute in the frivolous sense. Also, the fact that he negotiated a way to return to Formula One suggests that he's not even close to being done yet, and that means the settlement isn't the end, it's just what's the next step. So where will Horner land next? If he does, team principal somewhere else, ownership, advisory role, all of that's possible, right? So we'll see what happens. This could change the landscape for contracts in Formula One as well, with exit clauses, non-compete terms, notice periods, etc. So we'll see how much controversy comes over that giant payout settlement, but it's one of those moments where the off-track stories are nearly as interesting as what happens on the track. So whatever happens next, this is going to be remembered as one of the big boardroom moments in Formula One history for sure. So let's dive over to some dirt track news. Big news in the sprint car world that just dropped. Tony Stewart Racing is making a major play in the High Limit Racing Series, and the driver behind the wheel will be none other than Rico Abreu. Buckle up, because this is one of these moves that could shake up the whole scene in 2026. So let's break it down real quick. It was officially announced Rico Abreu will join Tony Stewart Racing for 2026 High Limit Racing season, driving the TSR number 24 sprint car full-time. TSR will lease a franchise from Rico Abreu Racing. That means the Abreu franchise, which gives him status in the High Limit Series system, will be operated under the TSR banner. So joint venture. The core crew will stay intact. Ricky Warner is still the crew chief. Zach Middlebrooks, the car chief. Brady Forbrook, the tire specialist. They will come over with Rico. Continuity in the team is being preserved. High Limit Racing currently introduced a charter franchise system. That means with franchises, they have extra perks like shares of broadcast revenue, etc. TSR entering the system via a lease franchise gives them not just a driver, but ownership status in the series. So let's talk about the infrastructure just a little bit. Tony Stewart Racing is already one of the most storied sprint car operations in the U.S. Over 25 years, it's racked up 300 plus World of Outlaws wins, multiple championships, a massive fan base. The move strengthens the competitive heft of High Limit. Abreu is already leading the High Limit point standings going into the 2025 finales. With multiple wins under his belt, he's riding a high performance and reputation leading up to a move. He's shown the form, the fan support, and the ambition. So Abreu's core pit crew's coming with him. That keeps the internal chemistry strong. TSR isn't just acquiring a driver, they're acquiring a proven race team, which is also pretty awesome. And yeah, I mean, continuity is huge, right? In sprint car racing, where setup, trust, timing, all those small details matter. Competition is about to get hot, though. TSR's resources, Abreu's driving, his keen crew, the number 24 car will be one to beat. That raises the bar for everyone else under the High Limit banner. Other franchise teams will want to make sure they're stepping up. You're going to get more marquee names, more visibility. Stewart's name draws attention. Abreu's huge fan following. This move should help amplify broadcast numbers, sponsorships, maybe even more premium events. So what does this mean for Abreu's own operation? Though he's joining TSR, Abreu will still have a say in the team management. He'll manage day-to-day operations under the TSR umbrella. That suggests he retains control over things he values like culture, crew, how the team operates. More, it's just driver move over type mentality, right? He's actually going to have some control. TSR has been the World of Outlaws sprint car circuit and other series, but this marks a full-scale commitment to High Limit Racing. They'll run full-time in High Limit, plus some marquee sprint events like the Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals. This may mean the team shifts resources or focuses in the 2026 sprint car season. So how much are we going to see them slack off of in the World of Outlaws? It's hard to say. Are we going to see more broadcast exposure and financial gains from High Limit Racing with this shift? Personally, I think this is one of those perfect alignments. Abreu gets more infrastructure, more horsepower, while still keeping the team that's gotten him there. So TSR gets a hungry, talented driver, someone who represents the sport well for the sport overall. Very positive out vibes there. More competition, more stories, more visibility. If it all goes well, this could mark the start of a new era for sprint car franchise racing, honestly. A lot of people want to see Abreu succeed in the number 24 TSR car, because if he does, it proves the franchise model in High Limit can work in exciting ways. Again, ahead of their time over there at High Limit Racing. Let's dive over to some race recaps. We had another good weekend in racing. Let's start off with Loudon, New Hampshire in NASCAR. NASCAR Truck Series at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Magic Mile lived up to its name with some drama, domination, and playoff heartbreak, so let's get into it. So, New Hampshire, 1 mile, flat corners, tricky restarts, a place where track position and discipline are everything. This wasn't just another race. It was a cutoff race in the playoffs. The round of 10 shrank to the round of 8 by the end of the day, so every lap carried the extra weight. Corey Heim started on the pole, and spoiler alert, he pretty much owned the race. Let's not skip ahead too fast. The green flag drops, and right away Heim shows why he's been the class of the field all season. He leads the most opening laps. Wasn't all clean. Derek White brushes the wall late in the stage, brings out a caution, bunching up the field. On the restart, though, no problem for Heim. He cruises to the Stage 1 win. Behind him, Chandler Smith, Ty Majeski, Rajah Caruth, and Jake Garcia round out the stage top 5. Stage 2 opens with some strategy shuffles. Andrew Perez cycles to the lead for a bit after pit stops. Nice run for him, but once again, Heim claws his way back in. He takes control and doesn't look back. Heim wins stage 2, sweeping the stages. Perez hangs on to second in the stage. Chandler Smith, Lane Riggs, and Gio Ruggiero in the mix. At this point, Heim looks untouchable, but with playoff pressure, you can never count your trophies until the checkered flag waves. Now we're in the money laps, 100 to go, then 50 to go, and Heim is still in charge, leading lap after lap, but New Hampshire isn't going to let this end without a little chaos. Spencer Boyd and Tyler Tomasi get together, bring out a yellow, then later Tony Breitner, Matt Crafton, defending champ Ben Rhodes all get swept up in another crash. That shuffled things, but through it all, Heim kept the number 11 steady. Chandler Smith made it interesting late, though. He lined up second, took some swings, kept Heim honest, but in the end, Heim was just too strong. He takes the win by about 0.8 of a second. So here's how the top 5 shook out. Corey Heim, race winner, stage sweeper, lap leader. He led 124 of 175 laps, pure domination. Chandler Smith was the runner-up, strong run, but not quite enough to steal it. Lane Riggs, solid third place, building momentum for that team. Gio Ruggiero, fourth, which was a super impressive showing from that team. Ty Majeski rounded out the top 5. He's usually always a contender, right? So let's talk playoffs because this was huge. Corey Heim's win was his 9th of the season, which ties for a single-season record of truck wins. That's pretty much monster status. He's not just advancing. He's sending a message to the rest of the round of 8. Unfortunately for Chandler Smith, even finishing second wasn't enough. He and Jake Garcia are eliminated from the playoffs after Loudon. Brutal reminder that it's just not about one finish. It's about the whole round. So your round of 8 is now set, and Heim is clear, rolling in. Big picture, 3 things I'm pulling out of this race. Heim is unstoppable right now. Pressure is merciless with Chandler Smith nearly running perfect, still getting bounced, and how cutthroat the truck playoffs really are. And the young guns are showing up. Riggs, Ruggiero, Carruth. They may not be in the championship contention yet, but runs like this prove more depth in the field and extremely talented garage, honestly. So let's talk about the Cup Series at Loudon. I got to the honor of being there for this race, which was great. First time at Loudon. So just want to say, sold out crowd. Fans are great. It was just an awesome event. So let's dive into it. The Mobil won 301 at Loudon. It was one for the books, that's for sure. This race was number 30 of 36 in the Cup Series schedule. 4th race of the playoffs, opening round of 12. So we talked about the Magic Mile. Always brings close quarters, tire wears, tight finishes, all that good stuff. Pole sitter on this one was Joey Logano. He grabbed the pole, the average speed of around 129-second lap time. Expectations were high for Penske going in. Strong all weekend, lots of eyes on them. I believe they did the tire test there too, which always, it might not mean everything, but it definitely means something, right? So going into it, Ryan Blaney dominated, staying out of trouble, if nothing else, but he won stage 1, showing right off the bat that his car was fast when it counted. He started on the outside there of Joey Logano in second place at the beginning of this, and they just held neck and neck for most of it. So mid-race, you had some contact misfortune. There's been a lot of drama around this one. Ty Gibbs and Denny Hamlin, both from Joe Gibbs Racing, the old teammates, they got into a disagreement on track. Gibbs spun off Hamlin's bumper. That incident led to Ty Gibbs' race ending early. 35th-place finish due to damage from a toe link from that contact. Honestly, on this one, it's kind of an aggressive racing deal, but there's a lot of back and forth on should Gibbs be racing his teammates that hard and everything else. You had him holding up Hamlin and Bell, who are both playoff drivers. He's not going to do him more than win the race, but none of those Toyotas are fast enough to win. But at least get your guys some points, and I don't know. Team-wise, I feel like there should have been a little more done on that, but who am I to say? I just sit here in a podcast land. So, mid-race, we talked about the Gibbs thing. Let's talk about the multi-car wreck that collected Keselowski, SVG, Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez. The back half of the field basically damaged cars that couldn't recover on that one. Then the closing battle was awesome. With about 40 laps remaining, Ryan Blaney made a decisive move. He passed Josh Berry for the lead, and from there held it on. His closing run wasn't an easy one. Berry came up charging, but Blaney kept it clean, patient, and committed. Josh Berry deserves some serious credit, though. Spun early in the race, had to fight back, rallied hard to finish second. Very impressive given what he overcame, and just all those Fords were crazy fast. William Byron came in third. This is his first top 10 at New Hampshire in many, many starts. That's a big confidence booster for him. Chase Elliott's another one to talk about. Started in 26th, charged through the field to finish 5th. That comeback helps him set off some playoff pictures. So, yeah, just awesome. Blaney's win automatically sends him into the round of 8, locking in that spot, which eases some pressure for the remaining 2 races at Kansas and the Roval. Byron's strong finish helps him solidify his position. He now sits comfortably above the cut line with 2 races left. Some drivers are still teetering, but Briscoe barely holding on, a whole lot of other stuff. But recoveries and composure were critical for these guys. A bunch of guys, Barry, Elliott, Byron, they clawed their way back after incidents, and and dropping positions in the field. Right now, your current drivers on the bubble are Briscoe, Wallace, Reddick, and Cindric. They need strong runs, no room for slip-ups there. Penske is showing strong form, as always. They look like a threat every race now, so whether others can match that will be the key upsetter in this round of 12. So we'll see what happens next week at Kansas. Moving over to Formula One in Baku. If you missed it, it delivered a lot of chaos, a lot of drama, a lot of redemption. So Baku City Circuit, street circuit, tight turns, long straightaways, always unpredictable. Pressure's mounting, teams are dialing in upgrades, drivers are making risky moves. Max Verstappen grabbed the pole, feeling strong coming into the weekend. Carlos Sainz surprised a lot of people in qualifying very well in the front row as well. Some messy moments, multiple red flags in qualifying, crashes, incidents that hinted the race would not be a smooth one. And of course, Oscar Piastri had a rough session setting up for what would be a tough race. The green flag drops. Immediately we get heartbreak for the championship leader as Piastri crashes out after the first lap after a false start, jumped the start, and then locked up in turn 5. And no points for him. Serious blow to his streak. Meanwhile, Verstappen, from the pole, stays smooth, leads every single lap, lights to the flag, sets the pace, manages his tires and builds a gap. Did the grand pole win, fastest lap, and led every lap. Big bounce back for that team. George Russell also put in a strong drive for Mercedes, coming in second despite being a little bit ill and under the weather over the weekend. Showed some grit there. And Carlos Sainz, third place, first podium for Williams in years, which was huge. The team has been waiting for that kind of reward. Just awesome to see that one. The celebration was great there. Young drivers also impressed with Antonelli finishing 4th and Lawson getting a career best in 5th. You had some winners there, and you also had some losers. We talked about Piastri's rough weekend, crashing qualifying, then race gone on lap 1. McLaren as a team, Norris had a decent pace, but couldn't capitalize fully. Piastri's exit definitely hurt them. They lost ground. Both drivers and constructors picture relative to Red Bull's resurgence. With Piastri's DNF, Verstappen definitely closes the gap. The title fight is heating up again. It's not over for Piastri by any stretch, though, but the margin has definitely shrunk after this weekend. McLaren's constructors' title hopes are delayed. They just can't clinch it yet. Any slip-up in the upcoming races will become more and more costly for him. So, as we see, street circuits really amplify risk. Qualifying is a huge deal. Looking ahead, the next few rounds will test some consistency. Can Verstappen keep this up, or will McLaren regain form? Does Williams build on the podium? How will it affect the drivers? This reminded us that one lap can change everything, right? One mistake, one crash can flip the championship momentum. Verstappen's win makes things very interesting again, which is good to see from somewhat of a dominating McLaren year. Piastri's misfortune adds tension. Sainz and Williams bring joy to the underdog stories. So let's do let's see how you guys feel about it. I want to hear from you on this. Did Piastri tank the weekend? Or was the pressure just too much? Is Verstappen really back in the title hunt? Who will be a surprise contender over the next few races? Lawson, Antonelli, someone else? Drop your takes. Let's hear about it. Share it with the podcast. And next stop for Formula One, I guess, is Singapore. So we'll pick up from there. We're tearing into the action from the TireRack.com Battle of the Bricks in Indianapolis. IMSA 6-hour endurance race throwdown, big laps, big drama, and Cadillac ending it in style. So Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course, the Bricks format adds a twist of traffic, lapped cars, restarts, always makes for some good road course racing there with the sports car series. Big picture, Cadillac was looking for a win. First overall IMSA victory since 2023 for its teams. The manufacturers' drivers' championships were on the line. Porsche, Penske, Acura, BMW, all clawing position. You had pole sitter in the number 31 Whelen Cadillac driven by Jack Aiken. Then that put them in prime position at the start. Early in the race, there were a couple of full course cautions as typical with IMSA endurance events like traffic and GT class intermingling. Also saw teams diverging on strategy early, some pitting early, others staying out longer trying to gain track position. Strategy really mattered as the Cadillac number 31 executed well, swapping drivers at the right time. That lineup held together and made the right calls between Jack Aiken, Earl Bamber, and Frederick Vesti. Key moments with around an hour and 15 minutes left. A caution came when the hit flew off the car of the number 70 Ferrari. This tightened things up and gave an opportunity for those behind to pounce. Restarting under pressure late in the race, restarts were a little dicey. Lap traffic, tire wear, fuel management, Aiken had to manage all of that. There was one restart with about an hour left, then another with about 9 minutes, setting up for a 2-lap dash to the finish. But overall, that number 31 Cadillac, Whelen Cadillac, they led the GTP class and held on through the final results through all the restarts, traffic, and pressure. It was their first IMSA win since Sebring of 2023, so a big moment for Cadillac. Second place, also Wayne Taylor Racing's number 10 Cadillac, driven by Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque. Finished very close behind, less than a second as the clock wound down, so just an awesome time for Cadillac. They showed the durability of the car, the team and drivers, kept mistakes low, and capitalized on all the good moments. Just championships are still much alive, though. No one's coasted home yet. Porsche, Penske, Cadillac, Acura all have a shot depending on how the Petit Le Mans plays out. GTD and GTD Pro continue to be wild cards. Close battles, small mistakes, contact, they all carry big consequences, so it's impossible to know how that's going to shake out. So yeah, we'll see what happens after the Petit Le Mans. We also had some World of Outlaws racing, the Dennis Roth Classic at Thunderbolt Raceway in Tulare, California. Let's cue up the highlights for this one. Qualifying was intense, lots of close times, drivers jockeying to avoid getting stuck in traffic. At tracks like Thunderbolt, the front row can make or break your night. Early heat races saw veteran drivers flexing, younger guns trying to make statements. There were a few spins, a couple where strategy really mattered, tire choice, track conditions, and all that kind of stuff took a play in that. Notably, the cushion and track groove were shifting, so adapting was very, very key to that. When the green dropped, David Gravel surged to the front. He showed strong pace, especially on the restarts and lap traffic. Spencer Baston gave a hard chase. In fact, the finish was razor close. Gravel took the win by just 0.021 seconds over Baston. Yes, 0.021. It was neck and neck. Behind them, there were solid runs from several others, guys who didn't touch the front but hung tough through the cautions, restarts, and the changing track conditions. But one of the most exciting moments, the restart late when Gravel nearly run down by Baston. It looked like Baston might have stole it, but Gravel held the line, handled lap traffic smartly, and pulled off the win. So congrats to him on that one. So what are we going to watch in the next Outlaw event? Well, can Baston convert this year and near miss into a win? I mean, we'll see what happens with all that. Will Gravel defend his lead and keep his urgency? Yeah, any smaller teams or less known drivers that can make up some margins would be great to see. Our favorite time of the podcast, let's talk some history. Jean Alesi, one of Formula One's most charismatic, passionate, and honestly star-crossed drivers. If you grew up watching Formula One in the late 80s and 90s, you know the name. He was the guy who raced with the heart on his sleeve, who had the talent to be world champion but never quite got the machinery to match that skill. Today we're unpacking his journey from his beginnings in Avignon to his time with Ferrari to the lasting mark he left on the sport. So, Jean Alesi was born 1964 in Avignon, France. To Sicilian parents, that mix of French grit and Italian passion really defined him. Like many racers of his generation, he started out karting, but unlike the privileged path some drivers get, Alesi came up the hard way. His family wasn't wealthy. Racing wasn't just a sport, it was a gamble. Every step up the ladder meant scraping resources together. By the mid-1980s, he worked his way into French Formula 3. In 1987, he won the French Formula 3 Championship. And in 1989, he clinched the International Formula 3000 title. That title was huge. F3 was basically the feeder series to Formula 1 at the time, and winning it meant the big teams had to take notice. Alesi made his first Formula 1 debut in 1989 with Tyrrell, subbing in at the French Grand Prix, and what a debut it was. He finished fourth. Right away, people saw this kid could fight. What made Alesi stand out? It was his driving style. He was very aggressive, elbows out, absolutely fearless in wheel-to-wheel battles. He had this reputation for wringing the neck out of any car he was given. Tyrrell wasn't a front-running team, but Alesi dragged results to the car that nobody expected. By 1990, he was battling Ayrton Senna at Phoenix in a Tyrrell that had no business fighting a McLaren. Senna eventually won, but Alesi announced himself to the world right there that he wasn't just another rookie, he was a rising star. In 1991, Alesi signed with Ferrari, and for a kid with Italian blood, driving for Scuderia was a dream. But here's the twist. Ferrari in the early 90s was, well, let's be honest, they were a mess. The cars were unreliable, they were inconsistent, and no match for Williams or McLaren. Still, Alesi's passion made him a fan favorite. Tifosi loved him because he drove like every lap was his last. He wasn't calculating like Prost, clinical like Schumacher. He was fire, raw emotion, and heart. And then came his greatest moment, Montreal 1995, the Canadian Grand Prix. On his 31st birthday in Ferrari 412 T2, Alesi finally won his one and only Formula One race, and the crowd went nuts. The Ferrari garage went nuts. And even though he only won once, that victory cemented his place in Formula One history. But outside of that day, it was frustration after frustration, mechanical failures, poor team strategy, and just plain bad luck robbed him of countless podiums and potential wins. By 1996, Ferrari had signed Michael Schumacher, and Alesi had moved on. He went to Benetton which had just been world champions with Schumacher, but timing is everything. The team was already slipping. From there, he bounced around to Sauber, Prost Grand Prix, Jordan. He stayed competitive, always hustling, always giving fans a show, but the cars just weren't there. By 2001, after 201 Grand Prix, Jean Alesi retired from Formula One. His stats: 1 win, 32 podiums, and 241 career points. On paper, that doesn't sound legendary, but stats don't tell the full story of Jean Alesi. Retirement from Formula One didn't mean retirement from racing. Alesi competed in DTM, the German Touring Car Championship with Mercedes. He later did sports car racing and even had a brief headline-grabbing entry into the Indianapolis 500 in 2012 with Lotus. Off track, he remained a huge ambassador for motorsport, especially Ferrari. He's often at events mentoring young drivers and serving as a reminder of what a golden era and passion sometimes mattered as much as the results did back then. What is Jean Alesi's impact on Formula One? He was a definition of old school, aggressive, brave, sometimes to his own detriment, but unforgettable to watch. Fans loved him because he gave everything every single lap. Cult hero status was given to him, winning only once actually amplified his legend. He became a symbol of unfulfilled talent, the guy who could have been champion if the stars had aligned differently. Even though his Ferrari years were tough, he remains one of the most beloved Ferrari drivers of the modern era. The Tifosi adored his spirit. Alesi showed that Formula One isn't just about numbers, it's about emotion, spectacle, and human drama. That's why people still talk about him. So, in thoughts of closing here, Jean Alesi may not have been a title holder such as Senna, Schumacher, or Prost, but his impact is just as strong in a different way. He was the underdog who fought giants, the heart-on-his-sleeve racer who gave fans a reason to cheer, and the man who made even midfield battles feel like championship fights. In a sport that can sometimes feel cold and clinical, Jean Alesi was pure passion, and that's why he'll always be remembered as one of Formula One's true legends. So what's your favorite Jean Alesi memory? That duel with Senna in Phoenix, his Montreal win, or just the way he carried himself in scarlet red? Hit us up with your thoughts, share the video with a fellow F1 fan. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives on motorsports legends. And yeah, we appreciate all the listens and all the comments. So till next time, stay safe, and thanks for tuning in.